Hello, you are listening to Staying Healthy broadcast, hosted by Debbie Mirander, Bachelor of Science Registered Nurse, CEO and founder of Radiant Tree Productions, LLC. Debbie is also an ordained minister, Bible teacher, and author of the daily devotional book, Standing and Believing on the Promises of God. We are glad that you have tuned in. We provide information to help you grow mentally, physically, and spiritually. We also invite you to visit her website at radianttreeproductions.com for a wealth of information to assist you on your journey to health. All natural skin and hair care products, health and spiritual education, and much more. This broadcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to diagnose or treat or substitute medical advice given by your doctor. Before starting any exercise, herbal supplement, or dietary supplement, please inform your doctor in advance. As always, we wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Staying Healthy broadcast, Staying Healthy with Radiant Tree. And this is the fall-winter season of the Staying Healthy broadcast. I am your host, Debbie Mirander, and I am excited that you have chosen to tune in today with us. This season, most of our broadcasts will be pre-recorded and they will be shared on various social media. And that is because of the different schedule that I have at this time. And, I did not want to wait until that change, but wanted to share with you important health information. And so I have lots to share during this season. And so today I want to play for you a broadcast show that I was invited to be on. And the host of the show was Lesley Gist, and she is the host of the Gist of Freedom blog talk radio. She has a blog talk radio and called the Gist of Freedom. And Lesley is a historian, and she is an author. Her book is called The Gist of Freedom is Still Faith. She has a website called thegistoffreedom.com. And Gist is Gist is Gist. Lesley Gist Estridge is her name. She really have a passion for preserving Black history. She has a wealth of knowledge about Black history, and on her Facebook page she posts numerous subjects of Black history. I'm like always intrigued when I go to her Facebook page, Lesley Gist. And so she asked me to be on her show to share information about breast cancer. And so stay tuned for some inserts from that show. This was about just a few years ago. And unfortunately, not much have changed as far as breast cancer. One thing have changed is that the U.S. has started doing digital mammograms, whereas when I did this show, they had not. And so stay tuned for a wealth of information regarding breast cancer awareness.
Good evening and blessings, and welcome to another installment of the Gist of Freedom Estate. This show is produced by acclaimed historian, educator, and author Lesley Gist, and serves as our weekly live online discussion to celebrate the African American experience by honoring all the people, past and present, Black and white, who, with faith and focus, are preserving our rich history through literature, the arts, the skilled trades, and the humanities. We thank you for joining us tonight, and we'd love you to be a part of tonight's discussion by calling in with your comments or questions to 347-324-5552.
Hello, this is Lesley Gist. You're listening to The Gist of Freedom. Tonight we have a wonderful guest on to talk about breast cancer and breast cancer prevention. Minister Debbie, are you on the line?
Yes, I am, Sister Lesley.
Great. Could you please introduce yourself? You have such a long introduction. I don't want to leave anything out. So I think it's best that you introduce yourself to the Gist of Freedom audience.
Okay. First of all, Sister Lesley, I just want to thank you very much for inviting me on the show. I feel it's a very honor to be here and to impart what God has really instilled in my life to His people. I'm a registered nurse. I have been a nurse since 87, over 24 years. I'm also a holistic integrative health educator. I like to integrate holistic health with conventional medicine. I think that there is still a area for conventional medicine in this time because, we're bombarded with so many different, conditions that we are faced with, in this society. But also we also need holistic teaching. We need to integrate natural therapies in addition to conventional. So I try to kind of bring a balance between the two. I'm also a ordained minister. I teach Bible studies. That is my passion, God first. I've been teaching the Bible for over 15 years. I'm also a Christian author. My book is Standing and Believing on the Promises of God. It is a daily devotional book, and that book was birthed from a near-death experience that God really allowed me to overcome. And so I give all glory to God, first of all, and that is how some of the natural knowledge that God has imparted into me through the Holy Spirit, leading and guiding me through a journey, how I'm able to help others. And I just feel it a very privilege to be used by God.
Wow, that is a lot. I know we're going to observe, Breast Cancer Month, and that's why you're here to talk, but you have so much going on. We have to talk a little bit more about you and your book. So can we start with the book?
Yes, thank you, Lesley. My book is called Standing and Believing on the Promises of God. It is a 120 daily devotional. It is praying the promises of God because I had to stand and believe God's promises. It is my second book, and this book was just an extension from that. As I was recovering at home from a near-death experience, I had an anaphylactic reaction, and I actually stopped breathing, and I was resuscitated. But I went through a journey where I was so weak, and God had to really send healing through me, and healing came through His Word. And so I looked up 365 promise scriptures in the Bible, and because I needed a word every day. And so I started praying those scriptures, but God birthed in my spirit that I need to write those scriptures. And so I started writing the scriptures, and that's how they became writing prayers based on the promises that I was standing on. And my book can be found any Christian online source, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, ChristianBook.com, pretty much any source. It's also on my website, RadiantTreeProductions.com. And so that is how it started. Sorry?
Can you give us a spelling of your name?
My name is Debbie, Debbie, and Mirander is my last name, M as in Mary, Irander, Debbie Mirander.
Okay. Now, how did your transition, I guess we call it a transition, when you introduced, the holistic part of your recovery, or even, your options, how did that, how was it accepted in mainstream with the doctors and the industry, the traditional medicine? How were you able to integrate that? And, was it received well by your peers? And
no, it was not. This was in 1995, and just as there is restrictions and conflict here in 2012, there was even more back then because a lot of natural therapy was not even recognized. Mainstream medicine, they basically just did not recognize them at all. And it actually started from home because my husband is a medical doctor. And so I received, pretty much all the information that I needed medical-wise, but there was no source of information in the as far as the natural therapies. And so I had to be an advocate of my own health. And as much as I appreciate mainstream medicine, because they actually was there for me when I was resuscitated, and they're very good for that. But they really have not openly accepted natural therapy. Now, there are some approved therapies that have been accepted, but it is only after they've gone through their extensive research. However, what is the main conflict is the pharmacy industry, which is really a money-making business. And so is it something that's really that they have to spend a lot of money on and they don't see a great return, even though the cancer evidence as far as healing of cancer is evident in that natural therapy? They would not acknowledge it, so they will not promote it because it doesn't bring in funds. And so a lot of, doctors really, it's really because of their lack of education. And I think pride has to do, with it a lot. But, because patients are not really being taken seriously when they ask their doctors, what about this or what about that I've heard about. The doctors, they really don't have time, and that's, another whole issue with the healthcare, industry. But there are a lot of natural therapies that are really they're evidence of healing.
Is there any new trends that you see that they are making changes, moving towards holistic? Any signs that you see since 1995 to now? Positive signs?
I definitely see positive sign. One sign in particular is the field of acupuncture. Some of the insurance companies have now started accepting acupuncture, and they have now started paying for acupuncture therapy. I actually was able to get acupuncture therapy a couple of years ago through my insurance company because they acknowledge that. And chiropractor is another area that they will cover. It doesn't really take an accident, but they will, acknowledge those. But those are the only two that I really see, the insurance company really accepting. However, they strictly say any nutritionist or any doctor or naturopath, they will not be covering those.
Wow. Now, and you also strongly, deeply rooted into a Christian. Is it Christianity that you practice in your faith?
Yes, it is.
Have you seen any changes moving in that direction with spirituality in the mainstream medical industry and insurance as well?
As far as spirituality, I do see that they are acknowledging prayer as a form of, I wouldn't say they go as far as to acknowledge it as a form of healing, but they do acknowledge prayer as evidence of patients doing better with no matter what condition they are being faced. The faith that those patients have as a result of praying to God and just having someone that they can pray to and seeing as their healer, I think mainstream medicine have acknowledged that because I've seen several articles on that, and it's been talked about in the field as well.
Right. So those are really good signs, and I'm glad that you were able to witness it, and you started in 1995. And let's move on to the Breast Cancer Month. How long has this, this acknowledgement of breast cancer, this new Breast Cancer Month, trend, I guess we could call it. How long has it been in effect?
It's actually been in effect at least over 10 years. It started with the pink movement, and actually today I think it's starting to come back. However, I don't really see, and there have been some groups that feel that the pink symbol, because there have been some controversial as early as last year regarding the pink symbol and how the money, I would say funds issue. But I don't really think the money, as far as the pink movement, I don't see where it has helped. It has helped in the diagnosis, making mammogram more readily available, to all sex. However, there has been controversial as far as everyone can identify themselves in pink. However, what is the pink doing for breast cancer? Because breast cancer still is increasing. I mean, such an astounding rate. And I think that, I'm not saying how the money is being used because I really don't know that aspect. But it takes more than a pink symbol. And it takes, someone actively pursuing cancer research. And I think that that's where the natural therapy comes in as well, because breast cancer, there's a lot of risk factors for breast cancer, but they're only acknowledging when the breast cancer is detected. I don't think prevention is being really acknowledged other than, getting the mammograms and diagnostically, but there are natural therapies and really regarding foods and environmental exposures and hormonal imbalances and just chemicals, so much chemicals that we're exposed to. I think unless they integrate the two, we're still going to be seeing an astounding rate of breast cancer.
Okay. Say that again. Integrate which two?
I think that the natural and the environmental factors, all of the other things that predispose women to breast cancer, I think those have to be integrated into medical streamline in order for us to really see a dent in the breast cancer, because we are exposed to these days genetically modified foods. Our body have to try to process those foods, and really the body is not recognizing those foods. And the foods that we eat, the pesticides in our in our foods, the things that we're putting on our body, the parabens, the chemicals, all these things that we're bombarded with. And, medical mainstream is not identifying those things. And so until those things are identified, I really think that we're going to keep seeing breast cancer beyond diagnostic only. I think medical mainstream, they are diagnosing breast cancer earlier because they're getting that message out, early detection, mammogram. But I think it has stopped there, but it needs to go beyond that.
Are there any myths that you would like to bust today as far as breast cancer, how you can obtain it, or how you can cure it? Are there any myths out there that you are aware of that are just a fallacy?
I don't really, hear a lot of myths as far as breast cancer. I do know that as far as African American women, I think that it is a fallacy that African American women do not get breast cancer, more than you would say Caucasian women. And the American Cancer Association, they do agree that white women have a slightly increased risk of getting breast cancer. However, when African Americans get breast cancer, they are the one most likely, unfortunately, to die of breast cancer. And also,
that's terrible.
Yes, it is. It's very unfortunate, and we need to get that information out to the Black community. Do your self breast exam. I think we've gotten away from that because of the rush. At times, we used to, teach patients, do it after your period. Like during your period or just before your period. Those are the times that your breast is more, lumpy, or because you're going through hormonal balances just before the menstrual. However, a couple of days after the menstruation, that is the ideal time to do the breast exam. So we need to be setting our phones or our clocks or whatever it takes, mark it on the calendar to do a self-breast exam, and we need to get those mammograms. Also, I want to point out that when African American, do get breast cancer, a lot of time it is at a much younger age than white women. African American under 45 years of age, it's more common for them to get breast cancer than older women. And when we talk about hormones, it's all about hormones. When you're talking about breast issues in women, it is a hormone imbalance. So we need to be looking at what are some of those things that are causing these hormone imbalance. Whether it's the food that we're exposed to, the hormones in the foods, or the chemicals. And so that's why we have to, especially for Black women, we have to really take care of ourselves, because when it is diagnosed, a lot of times it is diagnosed at a very late stage.
Wow. I had so many questions, but you touched on you answered so many of them. Well, when you talk about the self-examinations, are you finding women are more prone to do it now than before? Or because I've heard stories that when you go to have that examination done, it is very painful that they squish your boobs up, and is this, give us a bird's eye view exactly what happens when you have this examination.
Well,
versus the self-examination.
Okay, the self-examination is very important. When I say self-examination, it is when we ourselves take our hand and we go in every area of our breast and we feel for the lumps. And we can, Google if we don't really know how to do the breast self-exam, because it is important that we know how to do the breast self-exam with our own hands. And, there is a structural way to do it. I know of a woman, her husband found a lump for her. And so, it doesn't always mean that you have to do that exam perfectly. You have to get to know your own body, so you have to feel your breasts. We have to get to know our own body, and so we have to feel every area of our breast. And if you feel something very unusual, hey, you have to, alert your doctor. I don't care if it's nothing, but you can't assume it's nothing. Because a lot of times we'll say, oh, it's nothing. Or a lot of times we don't really know what to feel. What is a true lump? A lump is very hard. It's like a pea size sometimes. And it's, we have women that have what they call fibrocystic breast disease. And some women, their breasts are already kind of lumpy and their breasts are very tender. But a lump is very distinct. It's like a pea-sized lump, and it's not flexible. It's something that is really prominent. And so those are what they're actually looking for. As far as the mammogram, when a doctor orders a mammogram, some women that have tender breasts find it very painful because, yes, you have the machine like a plate, and, that machine, they have to position your breast on the plate or the flat surface of the area, and the machine is mashing down the breast, unfortunately, because they're taking flat images of the breast, and our breasts are not normally flat. So they actually flatten.
So, you hear some people say if you don't have it, that machine is going to give it to you. from the way they flatten
out. That is
out.
another concern. I'm not going to say that is a myth because, of how I feel about radiation. They say that it's a small amount of radiation. However, it's still a radiation, and some women are getting them every 6 months because of the areas that has concern. They are now, bringing out what they call a digital mammogram, and it's just been approved by the FDA. And they say that it is much less radiation from that machine. Now, not all the insurance companies, I don't even know if the insurance company has started. It's such a recent, it's such a recent thing that they passed. But this machine for digital mammograms have already been used in other countries. And so we being a developing country, you wonder why these things haven't come to us first. However, that is something that we can really look forward to. They also have what they call a breast thermography. It actually detects the heat in the breast. And the theory is breast cancer, breast cells produce nitric oxide, and nitric oxide produces heat. And so that machine is picking up the heated areas in the breast that really stands out. And so it would tell you these are the areas that you need to be concerned of. But unfortunately, it doesn't replace the mammogram, and it's not covered by the insurance companies. You have to go to like your doctor, naturopath, or a natural practice that provide that for you. But yes, radiation.
Do you have any recommendations or any websites for these naturopaths? And could you spell it and, take your time and spell out these places that we need to go? Because I've heard of it, but it's not common.
Yes. I'm going to spell out the thermogram because a lot of people really don't know about them. It's called breast, BREAST, thermography. And that's T as in Tom, H as in Harry, E-R, M as in Mary, O, G as in girl, R-A, P as in pony, H as in Harry, and Y, thermography. And so you can Google breast thermography center, and then it would, and a lot of times it's under holistic health, but you can Google breast thermography center, and then you can even put your maybe your zip code. That's how I find a lot of things, by my zip code. And it will give you the centers that do these breast thermograms.
Wonderful. And you mentioned, the different insurance companies accepting these new procedures. How has politics played in this movement for breast cancer and the prevention? Is there anything you would ask either president? We have this serious election coming up in a few weeks. What would you ask of the two, President Obama and candidate Romney, as an advocate for breast cancer?
I first want to bring out that there is a organization. They're not just carrying the pink symbol, but there's an organization called Breast Cancer Deadline 2020. These are a group of women, and the organization actually is becoming very increasing large. It is from the National Breast Cancer Coalition. They have a breast cancer deadline now. This group is really getting together and trying to make a difference. They are actually, having meetings, and they're trying to meet with some of the politicians, some of the people that really passed certain laws. Last year, they were basically saying that women shouldn't have. They don't think that. I think the insurance company was getting together with the AMA, the American Medical Association, and saying, we don't think that women should have mammograms so often. Every 2 years is fine. Well, for those women that have a risk factor of getting breast cancer at a younger age, waiting can really be detrimental. Unfortunately, mammogram is the most definitive, the most definitive way of detecting abnormality, even though the breast thermography is also detecting those heat. But when you do a mammogram, it is picking up suspicious area, and they have to follow it up with an ultrasound. However, when they are following with an ultrasound, that is when they actually can tell whether it's a nodule or whether it's just a cyst. But you know, when you get into politics, like what AMA did, try. You know, if you say that mammogram should be done every 2 years, well, try to provide an alternative for women, especially those women that have issues. And, you know, the women that have issues with their breasts, you have to continue to follow sometimes every 6 months with your doctor. You know, ultrasound do not emit radiation like the mammogram. So that is a much safer form for women who are, you know, have those fibrocystic breast diseases that they're following those cysts. But the breast cancer deadline, they are trying to, you know, set a deadline to, hey, we want to eliminate breast cancer by 2020. And so I would encourage people to Google National Breast Cancer Coalition, Breast Cancer Deadline 2020, and really just see how they can join this organization and really help make a difference, because that is a movement that is really going into the political arena of this breast cancer.
Excellent. And you talked about different ways to reduce the exposure to the X-rays and things of that nature. What is this I hear about the potassium, that you can take a potassium pill?
Yes, you know, when they had that radiation exposure in Japan, a lot of people was, it was the potassium iodine that they were taking, because what happened, when you have a large amount of radiation exposure, the thyroid, it is a gland that attracts radiation, and the thyroid, it can, you know, attract the radiation, and it can predispose you to thyroid cancer. So that was the big issue. Thyroid cancer is because one of the risk factors of thyroid cancer is increased risk of radiation exposure. And a lot of time it's by environmental, not just the rays from the sun, but environmental radiation, where there is an abnormal level of radiation in the air. And a lot of people was going out to get these potassium iodine pills, because what iodine does, it absorbs in the thyroid. And iodine protects the thyroid from cancer. I wouldn't say it protects it 100%, but it decreases the risk of thyroid cancer. But that is. I'm sorry?
Do you recommend that we would take the potassium iodine pill before having these procedures or these tests done?
Well, I couldn't recommend it. I would say that it is very important to, you know, because when they do the mammogram, they do put you, you know, they put a lead thing on it. But, you know, I like to cover my thyroid. I really do. So sometimes I tell them, raise it up more. And even when I'm getting, you know, any other procedure where, you know, where I'm going to be exposed to radiation, I tell them, I only like my face to be exposed, to tell you the truth. You know, you can request it be put up even more, you know, to guard you from the radiation. But I wouldn't recommend taking the iodine, because I really don't know. There may be other risk factors, you know, of certain individuals for taking the iodine. Because some people, they have low thyroid, and some people have high thyroid functions.
Well, thank you. And another question I had for you was regarding genetics. I have a few friends whose moms, you know, have breast cancer or had it, and they're like in panic mode, and they have to do different things, you know, every so often, because it's one friend I have is highly genetics. She has a few aunts that has breast cancer. So could you talk about that?
Yes, unfortunately, there are one of the risk factors of breast cancer is genetics, and especially if you had a first-generation relative like your mom, and even your grandma who had breast cancer. They have and I really think, and I would tell President Obama also, those people that have genetic predisposition to breast cancer, I think that they should make it available that gene testing be done to these people, these persons, and the insurance, company will cover it. Because a lot of gene testing, the insurance company are saying it's too expensive and we're not going to cover it. That is another thing that we need to push for. There are people that really have concerns, and they really need to be tested because there are a way that they can find out if they carry those genes.
Okay. And the last question I had regarding the breast cancer month is the church. How is the black church, and I'm not going to insinuate that you belong to a black church, but how has the church received health issues in general, and specifically this one?
Yes. I belong to a multicultural church. It is predominantly black, but we do have other cultures. We have Puerto Ricans. We have a couple of other, persons of other ethnicity. So we like to call ourselves a multicultural church.
And that's the new trend. I like that.
Yes,
I find that it's a new trend in a lot of churches. So go ahead.
The church is receiving the information excellent. They actually are yearning for the information because we have churches and we raise monies for this cause and that cause, but we have people in the church that have high blood pressure, diabetes, and so many other conditions. And it really shouldn't be that way. Aside from having faith and praying, we need to be proactive in getting messages to our members. We have to get the whether it's health seminars. We need to have regular health seminars, and actually, we've had a health seminar in our church, and we have plans to continue it. I think the church needs to link with healthcare professionals, and there are different hospitals that the churches can link with because they can come out there with buses. We have to link with those that have the resources because a lot of African-American churches do not have the resources. Just as in the black community, a lot of resources are not available as far as medical care, in this day and age, unfortunately. And hopefully, we're going to get those insurance coverage, and that is one positive thing. But we need to get the information to the black churches. African American churches, they really lack the education that is really needed. And so I would advise the black community to really link up with those hospitals and those medical associations and try to bring in volunteers that will do those health seminars.
Earlier you mentioned environmental factors, and now you're talking about the lack of education. What do you think about integrating this type of education in the curriculum, starting from pre-K all the way up through college, where you're teaching nutrition and healthy living and different things of that nature? Is that some way that you think that would help people be more proactive and aware of how they can prevent, some sorts of cancers?
Knowledge is power. And, the scripture says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And I know we hear that a lot, but it's still true in today's society. And it's just like training a child. You have to train that child, and you have to train that child manners. We train our children table manners, but we do not train them how to eat properly. And so it has to come from the home as a child because our taste bud, we get addicted to sugar at a very early age, and cancer thrive off sugar. And so when we get at a risk factor of developing cancer, or we get a threat of cancer, it's very hard to get rid of the sugars in our diet because we have become addicted to sugar. So we need to start at an early age when they're walking. We need to stop putting sugars in our baby bottles as well, trying to get them to drink the milk.
Right.
So it starts at an early age.
Right. I don't know which area you're from, but I'm from the tri-state area, and the mayor of New York is always in the news, Mayor Bloomberg, regarding this campaign he has against
yes, and sodas.
Superstars, sodas, and sugary drinks. What is your take on his movement, and is he too extreme? Or, what's your opinion about it?
I don't think he's too extreme at all. I think the government has lacked in this area, so much, and it started in our school cafeterias. So much have allowed to go on in our school cafeterias. We don't know what our kids are being fed in the cafeteria, and they're being fed these surplus meals and these sugary drinks. And I was surprised when they started having soda machines in the school's cafeteria. And unfortunately, a lot of parents cannot have, they don't have the time to fix their kids' lunches, so they depend on the school system. And so I'm glad that he is really taking a proactive, stand. And I think the whole country needs to take a stand.
Right. And there's a new trend also in New York with these rooftop gardens and co-ops trying to bring in fresh foods, and they also are allowing the farmers to come in and accept, I don't know, I know when I was going to food stamps, but it's something else, different types of government aid for, low-income people. Is that a new trend that you can appreciate, or do you see that? Have you witnessed anything of that nature?
Yes, living in Florida, I don't see it as much. We're in South Florida, down to the bottom. So we actually have a lot of farms, but down here we are encouraging people to support the local farmers. However, I do know even in Philadelphia, I know a young lady, she is actually starting a rooftop garden herself because unfortunately even a lot of organic foods are not getting to those, the community stores. And so when people grow their own pots, a lot of people, they have a myth, they feel that there is a myth. Well, there is a myth that you cannot grow vegetables in pots. It is an ideal way of growing vegetables. And when you have rooftop, when you have a little patio, even if it starts with a little tomato plant, and then you add another and another, plant, that is where it starts little by little. And so I was very happy to see those projects being done in the north where there's rooftop and they don't really have the soil, and even down here some people that they have they're renting apartments, they don't have the yard space. I think that needs to be encouraged down here more. I don't see it down here, but I am so glad that it's starting up there.
Yes, and earlier you mentioned other countries, and we were behind other countries. What country do you think is setting the bar high as far as healthy living and cancer-free and, things for wellness and doing things the right way?
Well, I know in the UK and England and so forth, a lot of times they have therapies that are being used there, more natural therapies that are readily more accepted there than here. We're a developing country, and, we, like the digital mammogram, that was used, it's being used in the UK, but it's not being used here. And I don't know if it's political or what, but I don't really know exactly what is that, the blockage as far as what is being put here or there. But I have a feeling it is all political. It's political, but I'm glad that we're getting some of the therapies. However, the natural therapies, a lot of times they are more readily accepted in other countries than here, and we really have to step up on that. I want to bring out genetically modified foods because it has been allowed in this country. Corn is number one on the list. They have genetically modified corn for so many different purposes other than eating, but it has. But what they have done, they have genetically modified the seeds of the corn. That when the corn does grow, one bite from the corn from a insect can kill them, can kill that insect. So they don't have to use pesticides as much because a lot of times these insects have become resistant to pesticides. So they want to make a stronger corn resistant to insects. But it is rearranging the DNA in our body because rats have developed tumors when they have consumed these corn. But the FDA, time and time again, have allowed things and they have passed things that can be detrimental to us. And since genetically modified foods have been allowed in this country, whereas there are other countries that they are labeled, and this government would not even allow genetically modified foods to be labeled. We deserve a right to know what we're eating, that we can make a choice. And the genetically modified foods, since they've come out, there have been increased allergies, increased cancers. It is just really, really pathetic what has been allowed in this country.
That's devastating. It's absolutely devastating. And I've read somewhere that they're also making everything seedless so that you can't grow your own food.
Isn't that something that's incredible? That is one way you can determine whether something is modified. When you have a watermelon that don't have any seeds, something's wrong.
Right. And, our show is usually a celebration of Black history, so we have to mention George Washington Carver, and I don't know what he would think about these modified foods, and, I mean, it's just terrible, but, you're a woman of God, and I know you say grace over food. What do you have to say after this show to people?
When I pray over my food, I bless and I sanctify it. I have to speak life over to my food, over my food because, God came to give us life and life more abundantly, and He gave us the fruit and and the seed and the herb, as food. However, when our foods are being tainted with and modified, we don't really know because they're not labeled. And so it is important. Even there was unfortunately, Whole Foods. They have been, they're. I don't know if it's money-making business or what. I love to shop at Whole Foods, but not everything at Whole Foods or free of genetically modified foods, which is so sad. This is a store that really promotes organic. And if it's organic, it's supposed to, it's supposed to be free of genetically modified. But
I always was suspicious of the meat because, like the last 10, 15 years, chicken legs are extremely big. They're bigger than the whole chicken.
Yes.
So I was a little leery of, something's not right with these eggs. The eggs are humongous. So, it's very scary, and I don't know what we can do but pray and hopefully get involved with the politicians and people like you are out here telling us, what to be aware of and who we can talk to and who are the advocates and lobbyists that we can join forces with. But I really appreciate what you're doing, and I'm definitely going to ask you to come back on the show as an expert on many topics because I'm enjoying this conversation immensely. But before we end this conversation, could you please give the audience your name and all your contact information, the names of your books, everything you think they need to know to reach you?
Okay, I would be delighted to do that. Again, my name is Debbie Mirander. I'm actually on Facebook. You can type in Debbie, Debbie, A. Mirander, and you'll pull me up. I also have a website called RadiantTreeProductions.com, and that is www.RadiantTreeProductions, Productions, RadiantTreeProductions.com. And my book is called Standing and Believing on the Promises of God. It is a daily devotional book, and it is praying the scriptures, and it is a book for healing of the mind, body, and soul. And any questions that you have, I'll be free to answer them. Most people reach me by Facebook, Debbie A. Mirander, and I'm also on Twitter as Debbie Mirander. I'm on YouTube. I have YouTube videos, but if you go to my website, you will see all of my links to the YouTube videos and to my two different pages on Facebook. I have a page on Facebook called Standing and Believing. I offer people to send prayer requests, and then I give them a scripture and a prayer, and it's something that helps them to stand and believe for something they're believing God for. And my other Facebook page is called Radiant Integrated Christian Health. It's an acronym for RICH, because we want to be rich in health.
Right. That's so true. And any parting words, and I forgot to mention Robin, the television personality, the talk show host in the morning. I can't think of her full name.
Yes, I had wanted to mention Robin Roberts. Robin is 51 years old, and she just was released. She is one of the hosts of Good Morning America, and she was released from the hospital the other day, thank God. She was diagnosed with breast cancer initially, and she got, both chemo and radiation for breast cancer. And unfortunately, the side effects of the chemo is sometimes a condition called MDS, myelodysplastic syndrome, and that is what she got. It is a disease of the blood and the bone marrow. So they had to give her a bone marrow transplant, and thank God she's doing good. But, this is a woman, a very prominent woman, and lack of resources and funds is no issue with her. So all the more, those that have issues with funds, issues with resources, and lack the education, you have to make yourself proactive. You have to be your health advocate and really getting the knowledge. We have the Internet, so we are, some people, because of economic, they don't have access to the Internet, but you have to find different ways of getting health information, different ways of keeping yourself healthy as best that you can, and just be aware of what's going on in the stores and the foods, and that's the best advice I can get. Be proactive with your health. You have one life, and you want to live it abundantly.
All right. Well, thank you, Minister Debbie. I had a great time, and I'm looking forward to talking to you soon. And, have a good night and continue to be a light.
Thank you very much. And, again, thank you for giving me this opportunity, because I really like to see our people prosper, because the Scripture says, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prosper. Thank you again.
All righty. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Bye-bye.